Jay-Z is being exposed right now, and 50 Cent is the one pulling back the curtain. People are saying the Super Bowl was rigged, the Grammys were bought, and a lawsuit just named him in something that could destroy everything. This whole situation has the internet absolutely spinning because the man everyone called untouchable might not be so clean after all. Everybody thought they knew the full story about Jay-Z and 50 Cent. Two legends, different lanes, mutual respect from a distance. That was the version everyone repeated for years. The media sold us this idea that it was all business, all strategic, just two kings building empires in their own ways. Cool, professional, grown men who moved past beef. But now, new information, old clips resurfacing, and 50 Cent himself going on record, the whole narrative is twisting. Because what if it was never respect? What if behind closed doors, behind boardroom smiles and industry events, there was a cold, calculated war happening this entire time? A war where one side played the long game with power moves, Grammy lobbying, and NFL deals, while the other side got louder, rawer, and refused to stay quiet. And now that lawsuit, that's the match that just got thrown on gasoline. The fire is spreading fast. Let me break this down from the beginning, because the layers here are deep. 50 Cent has been circling this story for years. He's been dropping hints, making jokes, throwing shots, but now he's putting it all on the table, and the internet is eating it up. Because every single piece he's revealing, it's connecting dots people have been whispering about for decades. First, let's talk about the early days. 50 Cent himself tells the story about walking into a studio full of Rockefeller artists back in the day. He looked around the room and said straight up, "Y'all better flood the streets with music right now because 50 Cent is coming." That wasn't a threat. That was a warning. He knew what was about to happen. And what happened? Indie Club dropped. And according to 50, the entire industry went silent. Artists who had momentum pushed to the side. Projects that were supposed to drop delayed. The message was clear. There are winners and there are casualties. And 50 was the tidal wave nobody could survive. Now here's where it gets interesting. 50 didn't just dominate in America. He went global. His debut album, 5 million copies sold. Meanwhile, Jay-Z's biggest project at the time, around 430,000. That's not even close. And 50 makes this point repeatedly. You can buy America with marketing dollars, billboards, radio spins, all that. But the rest of the world, that's where the truth shows. And internationally, 50 says the energy was never equal. The competition the US media kept pushing, it didn't exist everywhere else. One was a movement, the other was a brand. Then came the Super Bowl scandal, and this is where things get ugly. When the iconic halftime show was being put together, 50 Cent's name allegedly wasn't welcomed by everyone involved. Industry chatter claims Jay-Z, who had deep ties to the NFL's entertainment deals, wasn't fully on board with 50 being added to the lineup. The story goes like this. The decision makers didn't call for 50. M did. And according to what's been said publicly, M made it crystal clear. I can't do it if I can't bring 50. That single demand allegedly forced the issue. Suddenly, 50's spot went from optional to non-negotiable. To a lot of fans, that wasn't just booking politics. That was proof. When powerful machines try to close doors, sometimes it takes a loyal ally to kick them off the hinges. But let's zoom out for a second, because this isn't just about 50 and Jay-Z. This is about a pattern. Inside Rockefeller, other artists were feeling the squeeze too. Beanie Sigel himself described how every time he dropped an album, Jay-Z dropped too. Same label, same umbrella, same fan base, but one boss. You walk into a store with $20 and you see a Beanie Sigel album and a Jay-Z album sitting right next to each other? Beanie admitted himself, most people will pick Jay-Z. Album after album, release after release, Sigel said it felt like he was never allowed to breathe. Was it strategy, coincidence, or in-house sabotage masked as friendly competition? Even Beanie didn't want to believe it was malicious, but the pattern was impossible to ignore. And here's the thing. As 50's star went nuclear, his reputation inside the culture split completely away from Jay-Z's image. 50 stayed approachable, still on the ground, still with the people, still cracking jokes on Instagram, still responding to fans, still visible in a way that felt real. Jay-Z? Distant, untouchable, emerging only at billionaires' lunches, elite galas, wrapped in black excellence optics, while many people in the streets felt completely cut off. The man became a symbol, but symbols don't feel human anymore. Behind the polished visuals and carefully curated Instagram posts, the Carter's empire tightened its grip. Jay-Z's Grammy count exploded after marrying Beyoncé. Their children started receiving Grammys before they even had active music careers. Critics argue this isn't accidental. It's architecture, a legacy secured in paper, in trophies, in deals, in public narrative. And if you control the narrative, you control the history books. But then, the darkness everyone pretends not to see started leaking out. The Kit Kat Club stabbing taste from Jay-Z's early career, forcing him to court, turning himself in, ending with a plea to a misdemeanor. The infamous elevator footage, Solange unleashing on Jay-Z, while Beyoncé stands stone still, the perfect image of controlled chaos, as the world watched and guessed what demons they were swallowing in private. Jay-Z later admitting on camera that his marriage almost imploded, that they had to sit in the eye of the hurricane and use music as therapy to keep it from all collapsing. And now, the most explosive twist yet. A lawsuit, refiled and dragged back into the headlines, adds Jay-Z as a defendant. The accusation, allegedly assaulting a 13-year-old girl in 2000, alongside Sean D. Combs at a VMA afterparty. The accuser's legal team names him directly. Jay-Z denies everything, calls the allegations heinous, demands criminal charges if anything is real, slams the attorney as a clout-driven opportunist. No verdict, no criminal conviction, but the accusation itself has ripped open old fears. If even part of what's alleged is true, what else has been buried?
Now let's get into the motive, because this is where everything starts clicking into place. This isn't just some random beef that popped up overnight. This is years of tension, power plays, and calculated moves that have been building in the shadows. And when you start connecting the dots, it paints a picture that's honestly disturbing. Let's start with the foundation. Jay-Z built an empire. Nobody can deny that. From Marcy projects to billionaire status, the man executed one of the most impressive rises in entertainment history. But here's the question nobody wants to ask out loud. At what cost? And who got stepped on along the way? Because when you look at the people who were supposed to rise with him, a lot of them didn't. A lot of them got stuck. A lot of them watched Jay ascend while they stayed exactly where they were, or worse, fell off completely. Beanie Sigel's story is the perfect example. This man was supposed to be the next big thing out of Rockefeller. Talented, authentic, street credibility, everything you need to blow up in hip-hop. But every single time Beanie had an album ready to drop, Jay-Z would release something at the exact same time, same month, sometimes the same week. And here's the brutal reality. When you're shopping for music and you only have enough money for one album and both of them say Rockefeller on the cover, you're picking the boss. You're picking the established name. You're picking Jay-Z. That's just human nature. But when it happens once, maybe it's coincidence. When it happens twice, you start wondering. When it happens 3 times, that's a pattern, and patterns reveal intention. Beanie himself has talked about this publicly. He said he didn't want to believe it was malicious. He wanted to think it was just bad timing, just the way the release schedule worked out. But even he couldn't ignore how suspicious it looked. And other people around Rockefeller, they saw it too. They just didn't say it out loud because speaking against Jay-Z in that era meant career suicide. You don't bite the hand that feeds you, but the resentment, it was there, simmering, waiting. Now let's talk about 50 Cent's side of this, because his rise wasn't just about talent, it was about timing and strategy. When Get Rich or Die Tryin' dropped, it wasn't just an album, it was a takeover. 5 million copies sold, global domination. 50 became the biggest name in hip-hop almost overnight. And that kind of explosion, it threatens everyone. Because if you're at the top and someone else suddenly becomes bigger than you, that's a problem. That's a shift in power. That's your throne getting shaken. And here's what 50 has been saying for years. The competition was never real. The media tried to frame it like Jay-Z and 50 Cent were neck and neck, trading spots at number one, both kings in their own right. But 50 says that's cap. He says the numbers tell a different story. He says America can be manipulated with enough money, enough marketing, enough industry support. But when you go international, when you look at Europe, Asia, Africa, South America, that's where you see who's really moving the culture. And according to 50, it wasn't close. He was the one filling stadiums. He was the one getting mobbed at airports. He was the one the world wanted to see. But here's where the motive gets even darker, because it's not just about music sales or chart positions, it's about control. Jay-Z didn't just want to be successful, he wanted to control the narrative. He wanted to decide who gets opportunities, who gets access, who gets to sit at the table. And when you have that kind of power, you can quietly suffocate anyone who threatens you. You don't have to publicly destroy them. You just don't open doors for them. You don't make the call. You don't put them in the room. And slowly, quietly, they fade away. That's what 50 believes happened with the Super Bowl. He believes Jay-Z, who had significant influence over the NFL's entertainment decisions, didn't want him there. Not because 50 wasn't talented enough, not because he didn't deserve it, but because letting 50 on that stage meant sharing power. It meant acknowledging that someone else could command that moment. And for someone who spent decades building an image of being the guy, that's a threat. The only reason 50 got on that stage, according to the story, is because Eminem refused to perform without him. Think about that. One of the biggest artists in the world had to make it a non-negotiable demand just to get 50 included. That's not how things work when there's genuine respect and collaboration. That's how things work when there's gatekeeping, when there's politics, when there's someone behind the scenes saying no until they're forced to say yes. And now, with this lawsuit, with Jay-Z's name being dragged into allegations involving Diddy, a 13-year-old accuser at a VMA after-party from 2000, the motive becomes even clearer. Because if these allegations are true, or even if they're just believed to be true by enough people, then everything Jay-Z has built starts to crack. The billionaire image, the family man narrative, the black excellence branding, all of it gets called into question, and 50 Cent, he's been waiting for this moment. He's been saying for years that powerful people in the industry have been hiding things, that there's a culture of silence, that everyone's too scared to speak up because their own skeletons might get exposed. But 50 isn't scared. He's never been scared, and that's what makes him dangerous to people like Jay-Z. Because when you've spent your entire career controlling the story, the last thing you want is someone who refuses to play by the rules. Someone who doesn't care about being invited to the party. Someone who's willing to burn it all down just to expose the truth. But here's the part that really hits different, because this isn't just about two wealthy celebrities going back and forth. This isn't just industry politics and ego battles. There are real people caught in the middle of this. Innocent people. People who never asked to be part of any of this drama but got dragged into it anyway. Let's talk about the accusers, the women, the young girls, the people who allegedly experienced trauma at the hands of powerful men and then had to watch those same men get richer, more famous, more untouchable with every passing year. Imagine being 13 years old, going to what you think is a party, and ending up in a situation that scars you for life. Imagine carrying that weight for decades. Imagine watching the person who allegedly hurt you become a billionaire, watching them get celebrated, watching them get awards, watching them called a king and a legend while you're still dealing with nightmares. That's what this lawsuit represents. Whether the allegations are true or not, whether Jay-Z is guilty or innocent, the fact that someone felt brave enough to come forward and name him, that means something. That means there's a story there, a story that's been buried, a story that's been silenced, and now it's clawing its way to the surface. And it's not just the accusers. Think about the families. Think about Jay-Z's mother, who allegedly had to deal with her son being dragged into court over a stabbing incident years ago. Think about Beyoncé's family, watching that elevator footage go viral, watching the world dissect their marriage, watching strangers speculate about what happened behind closed doors. Think about Solange, who clearly reached a breaking point that night, who let her emotions explode in a way that got captured on camera and will follow her forever. Think about the artists who got pushed aside. Beanie Sigel, who's talked openly about feeling suffocated under Rockefeller's structure, who watched his career stall while Jay-Z's kept climbing. Think about the producers, the writers, the people who contributed to Jay's success but never got the credit or compensation they deserved. Think about the fans who believed in the image, who bought the albums, who defended him online, only now to question whether everything they supported was built on lies. This is the human cost of power. This is what happens when someone becomes so big, so untouchable, that accountability disappears. Because when you're a billionaire with connections to the NFL, the Grammys, the fashion industry, the art world, who's gonna check you? Who's gonna tell you no? Who's going to hold you responsible when something goes wrong? The answer, apparently, is 50 Cent, because while everyone else in the industry stays quiet, while everyone else protects their own image and their own bag, 50 is out here saying the things nobody else will say. He's calling out the hypocrisy. He's mocking the carefully constructed persona. He's refusing to let Jay-Z hide behind wealth and influence. And whether you love 50 or hate him, whether you think he's brave or just messy, you have to admit, he's the only one doing it. He's the only major artist willing to put his name on these accusations, these questions, these uncomfortable truths. Everyone else is too scared, too calculated, too worried about burning bridges. But 50, he burned those bridges years ago, and now he's standing in the ashes pointing at the people who are still pretending everything's fine.
Now let's dig even deeper into the evidence, because the more you look, the crazier this gets. We're not just talking about one or two suspicious incidents. We're talking about a pattern that spans decades. A pattern of control, manipulation, and strategic moves that all point to the same conclusion. Jay-Z has been playing a different game than everyone else. And the rules of that game? Most people don't even know they exist. Let's start with the Grammys, because this is one of the most obvious examples of how the system works. Before Jay-Z married Beyoncé, his Grammy count was respectable, but not extraordinary. He was winning awards, sure, but he wasn't dominating. He wasn't the guy everyone expected to sweep every category. But after the marriage, the floodgates opened. Nominations poured in, wins stacked up. And it wasn't just him. Beyoncé's Grammy count exploded too. Their collaborations? Automatic nominations. Their solo work? Automatic nominations. Even their kids started getting Grammy recognition before they had actual music careers. Now, some people will say that's just because they're talented. And sure, talent plays a role, but talent alone doesn't explain why the Carters became the most nominated, most awarded couple in Grammy history. Talent doesn't explain why their presence at the Grammys became mandatory, why the show's producers built entire segments around them, why every year it felt like the ceremony was designed to celebrate them specifically. That's not talent, that's influence. That's having the right connections, the right relationships, the right leverage to make sure your name is always in the conversation. And here's where it gets even more suspicious. There are people in the industry who've spoken anonymously about how Grammy voting works, about how certain artists have teams dedicated to campaigning for nominations, about how lobbying, networking, and strategic relationships play a huge role in who gets recognized and who gets ignored. It's not just about the music, it's about who you know, who you're connected to, who's willing to make calls on your behalf. And the Carters? They've mastered that game better than anyone. Now let's talk about Rihanna, because her origin story is one of those things that sounded cute and inspiring when we first heard it, but now it sounds dark. Rihanna herself has described being a teenager flown from Barbados to the US, taken to Def Jam, and singing to Jay-Z in his office. And she's told the story about how Jay-Z allegedly joked that there were two ways out of that office, through the door with a signed deal or through the 29th floor window. Everyone laughed. It was framed as a funny, high-pressure audition story. But think about that for a second. A teenage girl alone in an office with a powerful man, being told, even jokingly, that she doesn't have a choice, that she has to sign, that the alternative is falling out a window. Jaguar Wright, an outspoken former industry insider, has gone even further. She's made allegations about how young girls were moved through the system, claiming Rihanna was brought into powerful men's spaces extremely young, unsupervised, and vulnerable. She alleges Jay-Z's presence and influence were central to this, painting him as a cold, predatory strategist who knew exactly what he was doing. Now, these claims haven't been legally proven, but combined with the new lawsuit involving a 13-year-old accuser, combined with the broader Diddy scandal, every old clip, every joke, every late-night meeting suddenly feels a lot darker. And speaking of Diddy, let's connect those dots, because 50 Cent has been very vocal about the similarities between Jay-Z and Diddy, two men with deep industry connections, two men with influence reaching far beyond music, two men with decades of rumors circling their private behavior. But according to 50, the difference is in how they operate. Diddy was loud, reckless, partying in public, everything messy and on display. Jay-Z? Quiet, clean on paper, moving through high-level business rooms where nothing ugly is ever supposed to leak. The Diddy legal avalanche cracked the dam. Once those allegations exploded, people started mentally preparing themselves for whatever might be next. And when Jay-Z's name appeared in a lawsuit refiled with brutal accusations from an anonymous woman about something that allegedly happened at a VMA after-party, the narrative many feared came rushing forward. If the lights really come on in this industry, a lot of idols will shatter. Then there's the marriage itself. Jay-Z has admitted on national TV that his marriage to Beyoncé nearly collapsed under the weight of his actions. He spoke about causing pain, seeing that pain on Beyoncé's face, using music as a therapy session, choosing to fight for our love instead of walking away. To the public, this was framed as vulnerability, maturity, growth. But to his critics, it was damage control. Because when you combined the elevator fight, Lemonade, 4.44, years of cheating rumors, and now an environment where lawsuits are pulling back the curtain on powerful men, you don't see a clean redemption arc. You see a pattern of a man who knows exactly how to confess just enough to keep the machine running, without ever opening the deepest doors. And let's not forget the Super Bowl situation, because that's not just about 50 Cent getting his moment, it's about what it represents. The fact that Eminem had to threaten to pull out just to get 50 included, that tells you everything about how power works in these spaces. It's not about merit, it's not about who deserves to be there, it's about who the gatekeepers allow to be there. And Jay-Z, with his connections to the NFL, was allegedly one of those gatekeepers. He had the power to say yes or no, and according to the story, he was leaning toward no until he couldn't anymore. 50 Cent has been calling this out for years. He's been saying that Jay-Z operates like a silent assassin, that he doesn't destroy you publicly, he just quietly closes doors. He just doesn't make the call. He just lets you fade away while he keeps rising. And the Super Bowl incident? That's the blueprint. That's how it works. You don't get banned, you just don't get invited. And if someone forces your invitation, you get added, but the resentment stays. Now this whole situation gets even crazier when you realize how many other people have been caught in the crossfire over the years. Because Jay-Z and 50 Cent aren't the only players in this story. There's a whole network of artists, producers, executives, and insiders who've been watching this power struggle unfold from the inside. And some of them has been dropping hints for years. Take Dame Dash, for example, Jay-Z's former business partner and co-founder of Rockefeller Records. These two built an empire together. They were brothers, partners, unstoppable. But then something shifted. The partnership fractured. Dame got pushed out. And ever since, he's been vocal about how things went down. He's talked about feeling betrayed, about watching Jay-Z prioritize corporate relationships over loyalty, about seeing the man he built with turn into someone he didn't recognize. Dame's interviews are full of subtle shots, veiled criticisms, and moments where you can tell he's holding back from saying what he really wants to say. Then there's Kanye West, another artist who was deeply connected to Jay-Z for years. Kanye looked up to Jay like a mentor, a big brother, a father figure. But that relationship also fell apart. Kanye's talked about feeling used, feeling like his creativity was exploited, feeling like he was never truly respected despite everything he contributed. And when Kanye started speaking out about the industry, about control, about contracts, about power structures, Jay-Z went silent. No public support, no defense, just distance. And let's not forget about the women, because while the men in this story get most of the attention, there are women who've been navigating this world too. Women who've had to deal with powerful men, toxic dynamics, and situations where saying no could end their careers. Jaguar Wright has been one of the most vocal, making allegations about multiple industry figures and claiming she witnessed things that would shock the public. Whether you believe her or not, the fact that she's willing to speak at all says something. Because most people won't. Most people stay quiet because the risk is too high. Meanwhile, fans online have been working like full-blown investigators, digging through old interviews, resurfacing clips, analyzing lyrics, connecting dots that the mainstream media refuses to touch. They're slowing down frames from the elevator footage, zooming in on body language, comparing timelines, cross-referencing public statements. It's like a true crime documentary playing out in real time, except the subjects are some of the most famous people in the world. And the internet loves this, because this is the kind of story that feeds on speculation, mystery, and the slow unraveling of a carefully constructed image. Every new detail, every old clip, every cryptic Instagram post becomes another piece of the puzzle. And the more pieces you find, the darker the picture gets. 50 Cent knows this. He's been feeding the fire for years, dropping just enough information to keep people talking without fully exposing everything he knows. It's strategic, it's calculated. It's the same kind of power play that Jay-Z uses, just in reverse. Instead of controlling the narrative by staying silent, 50 controls it by staying loud, by making sure people can't ignore the questions, by making sure the uncomfortable truths stay in the conversation. What we're seeing here is bigger than just two celebrities beefing. This is about how power works in the entertainment industry, about who gets to control the narrative, who gets to decide what's acceptable, and who gets to bury the stories that might damage their empire. For decades, the industry has operated on silence, on NDAs, on fear, on the understanding that if you speak out, you'll be blacklisted, you'll lose opportunities, you'll be labeled difficult or crazy or bitter. And so people stay quiet. They swallow their trauma, they watch their abusers get richer and more celebrated, while they fade into the background. But something is shifting. The Me Too movement cracked the door open. The Diddy allegations kicked it wider. And now, with Jay-Z's name appearing in a lawsuit, people are starting to wonder, how many other untouchable figures are about to fall? How many other carefully constructed images are about to crumble? Because if Jay-Z, a billionaire with connections to the NFL, the Grammys, and the highest levels of business and culture, can be named in a lawsuit like this, then nobody is truly safe. Nobody is truly untouchable. 50 Cent represents something the industry can't control. Someone who doesn't care about being invited back. Someone who's already made his money, built his legacy, and secured his place in history. He doesn't need Jay-Z's approval. He doesn't need the industry's approval. And that makes him dangerous. Because when you have nothing to lose, you can say anything. You can expose anyone. You can burn bridges without worrying about the consequences. The bigger conversation here is about accountability, about whether the people at the top should be held to the same standards as everyone else, about whether wealth and influence should protect you from facing the truth. And right now, the answer is unclear. Jay-Z denies the allegations. He's calling them false, heinous, and motivated by money. And maybe he's right. Maybe this is a cash grab. Maybe this is someone trying to exploit his fame for a payout. But maybe not. Maybe there's truth buried in there. And until we know for sure, the questions will keep coming. So where does this all lead? Because right now, we're in the middle of the storm. The lawsuit is ongoing, Jay-Z is fighting back, 50 Cent is still talking, the internet is still digging, and the truth is somewhere in the middle of all this chaos, waiting to be uncovered. Maybe Jay-Z is completely innocent. Maybe this is all a coordinated attack by people who want to see him fall. Or maybe there's more to the story than we've been told. Maybe the image we've been sold for decades is just that, an image, a carefully constructed brand designed to hide the messy, ugly, complicated reality underneath. And if that's the case, then everything is about to change. Because once the public stops believing in the image, the empire starts to crack. And once it starts cracking, it's only a matter of time before it collapses completely. This story is far from over. More details are dropping every day. More people are speaking out. More questions are being asked. So drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Jay-Z is being unfairly targeted, or is there truth to what 50's been saying? Make sure you like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications because we're covering every single twist. I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe out there.